Welcome, everyone. I am Natasha Parker, and I'm so happy to be here with you guys for Untold Stories. A little bit about me. I worked in television for 10 years, television production. Most recently, I worked on an indie film. This was in 2018, and before that, I was at HBO for 4 years. As you guys know, we have some eclectic people in television and creative people. And one day, a friend of mine had a creative idea that I go on a reality show. You guys might have heard of it. It's called The Bachelor. So I went on a reality show, a dating show, and I did not find love. But it has opened up doors and it has allowed me to be here. I'm a host, a content creator, and I also teach meditation and mindfulness as well. And I'm so happy that you guys are here. We also we have a lot to talk about because the Untold Stories program is a very special program. This year, after this year, they would have awarded over $5 million to young filmmakers from underrepresented communities. And I mean, it's a beautiful time to be here and a beautiful time to amplify voices that have not necessarily been amplified on the small and big screen. This is the 5th year that we are doing this. It's an alliance between Tribeca and AT&T. They award funding, mentorship, and distribution to these filmmakers. So it's not just, here's some money to make a film, it's also mentorship. You guys want to hear more about Untold Stories? There is a trailer. Here we go.
AT&T presents Untold Stories, based on real events. Fade in. 5 aspiring filmmakers entered to pitch their production-ready feature films to an esteemed panel of industry professionals with hopes to win a $1 million grant and mentorship to develop their idea into a full-length feature film. Plus, a guaranteed slot at next year's Tribeca Festival and first look by HBO Max.
There's something like so beautiful and empowering about being seen.
You'll be surprised by how it makes you feel.
Is the next Untold Story yours? Head to tribecafilm.com/ATT Untold Stories to learn more. Fade out.
All right, guys, now let me tell you what we're going to do. We have 5 teams coming up here to pitch their heart and soul of their film. 10 minutes for the pitch, and then we're going to have our green light committee ask some questions, and then they're going to deliberate and pick a winner of $1 million to make their film. Also, everyone at home, we really need your help because there will be a fan favorite, and you guys get to pick this fan favorite. So you go to AT&T on Twitter and you get to vote. You get to vote until 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we need your help. Someone's going to get $50,000 for their film as a fan favorite. And no one's leaving empty-handed. Everyone that is participating today is going to get a grant of at least $10,000. And it's just such a great thing that AT&T and Tribeca Festival is doing. Yeah. Okay, guys. I want to intro you to our Greenlight Committee. First, we have Kaylin Smith-Kenny.
Helen Smith-Kenny is the Chief Marketing and Growth Officer at AT&T, where she is responsible for deepening customer relationships, accelerating growth, and elevating AT&T's premium position. AT&T has launched groundbreaking programs with the NBA, WNBA, #SeeHer, Cloud9, and more to elevate underrepresented voices.
Rockstar. And Karen Horn.
Karen Horn is a senior executive with over 20 years of experience in entertainment. She has been widely recognized as a diversity and inclusion pioneer and is currently the Senior Vice President of Equity and Inclusion at Warner Media, leading their creative talent development pipeline programs.
Yes. Leslie Cohen.
Leslie Cohen is Senior Vice President of Content Acquisitions for Warner Media and HBO Max. She's responsible for acquiring films, series, and specials from major studios, independent suppliers, international partners, and more, including artist-forward films for Warner Media's 150 program.
And next we have J.D. Dillard.
J.D. Dillard is a director and writer known for his authentic yet innovative storytelling. He made his directorial debut with the micro-budget film Slight, followed by the Blumhouse thriller Sweetheart. His next film is the historical war epic Devotion, which Sony Pictures will release domestically in October.
Cannot wait to see that. And lastly, we have the beautiful Joanna Weiss.
Jawanda Wise is an acclaimed actor and filmmaker working across film and television, including ABC's Firelight and her breakout role in Netflix's adaptation of She's Gotta Have It. She makes her blockbuster debut this summer in Jurassic World Dominion.
Today.
Ooh, today. Followed by the anticipated Showtime series 3 Women coming in the fall.
Oh, that was live. You're live. You're here.
Yes, you can speak to God herself. You can speak to God herself, yes. All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. You all, I mean, these filmmakers have, they're very lucky to have you. So, first up, we have The Weight of Land. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Guys, thank you, everybody.
Deep breaths, guys. Got this.
Hi, everybody. My name is Daniel. I'm the writer-director of The Weight of Land.
And my name is Gia Rigoli, and I am one of the producers of the film.
I first moved to the U.S. In my late teens, from my hometown in Brazil to a town of about 300 people in rural Kansas. That was my first time away from home, away from family, the house I grew up in. And it was, in other words, the first time I understood what the absence of home felt like. And that feeling as an immigrant, it's something that I still have, even after, it's been almost 10 years now that I'm here, but it still comes up more often than not as this immense weight that I feel to live up to the expectations set by the hard work and sacrifices that my family had to make so I could be here on the stage today. I met Gia and Esteban, our 2 producers in college, and the 3 of us had this immediate affinity. Not just because of our shared sensibilities, but because of our shared identity. They too understood that feeling. I had come from Brazil, Esteban from Colombia, Gia is a Mexican-American dual citizen, and the 3 of us knew right away that we wanted to come together to tell stories that we felt weren't finding their way to the screen, with a focus on Latin America.
We developed the script with the help of real ranchers from my hometown of Nogales, Arizona, and we are so excited to tell you more about the story in our video today.
In The Weight of Land, our heroes are the Estradas, an everyday Latino family where everyone is toiling away, trying to build a better life for themselves. At the core of this family, we have 2 siblings, Valeria and Javier. Polar opposites, water and oil. Javier is temperamental, impulsive, proud, a loud person, and very good at putting his foot in his mouth. Valeria, on the other end, is patient, level-headed, doesn't open her mouth to speak until she knows exactly what she wants to say. Thoughtful and smart, she's the natural leader anchoring this family together. Both of them are ranch hands at the historic Langmore Ranch, one of the largest cattle outfits in the entire county. Everyone in this family is a part of this ecosystem somehow. Valeria's 2 daughters, who grew up on that ranch on the back of a horse, dream of one day owning their own ranch. It's a family of dreams, mirroring the millions of families everywhere pursuing those same goals. Happiness, prosperity for one's children, respect. Our story is set in motion when the owner of the Langmore Ranch passes away, and to everyone's shock, does not leave his land to his two sons. Instead, he splits the ranch, leaving half of his entire cattle operation to the Estradas. The Estradas go to bed as ranch hands and they wake up ranch owners. They can't believe it, right? It sounds like winning the lottery. All of a sudden, they have land, money, a solid business to run, all of the things that they always dreamed of. But the Langmore sons don't take it so well. Unable to comprehend what their father was thinking, the two brothers are forced to give up their family land. But they still have power and influence, and they use every bit of it to try and get the Estradas to give that land back. These growing challenges make up the bulk of our second act. It starts small. Javier is refused service at a gas station. Valeria's daughters start hearing mean comments at school. But it escalates, because when people in town are forced to pick sides, nobody dares going against the Langmores, so the Estradas become pariahs. They are terrorized by cars riding up to their home at night. Threats are left written on their front door. People that used to be their friends ignore them on the streets. Valeria and Javier realize no one will buy their cattle and struggle to run a ranch no one wants to do any business with. As the months pass, this never-ending pressure begins to change them. Valeria, blinded by a sense of pride and competition, adopts a cold, hard demeanor, striving to stand her ground in a toxic, male-dominated field. All consumed by the business, she begins to neglect the very family she's trying to protect, spending less and less time with her daughters. Javier, on the other hand, mellows out. The barrage of conflict and attacks takes its toll on him, doing away with his hot temper and pushing him to find a safe and unexpectedly rewarding space in his relationship with his nieces. As the story reaches its climax, provocations between the Langmores and the Estradas become increasingly brazen, daring, and violent. As her family is repeatedly threatened, Valeria begins to embody Javier's sense of pride and impulsiveness. She musters her newfound courage and takes up arms against the Langmores, ultimately leading to tragic ends. Javier has to fight every instinct in his bones that he has to pursue revenge. But this time, he does what he has never done before. He puts his family before his pride and offers to sell the land back. When we see the family a few months later, they are grieving and recovering, but building a new life on a new ranch. Together, the Estradas embody the resilience of so many immigrant families out there. The struggle persists, the dream continues. This is a story about the importance of family and the challenges faced by many who are trying to carve a space for themselves. It's a story about whether the American dream is alive and well, about the meaning of home. Is your home a land, a name, a community? For the Estradas, home turns out to be each other. These are complex subjects, and we wouldn't be able to pull this off if it wasn't for the support of one really special community. 60 miles south of Tucson, Arizona, right along the US-Mexico border, you'll find Nogales, a small town of about 20,000 people.
My entire family has been born and raised in Nogales for generations. It is a twin city on the US and Mexican border. It is one community with a large divide across its heart in the shape of a border wall. I've never seen my community represented on screen. It is a very unique, special place, and I've wanted to make a movie here ever since I first discovered my love of filmmaking. Daniel, Esteban, and I have been working together for years and have had an incredibly fruitful collaboration. We've been developing the script with Daniel from the very beginning and are so excited to see it brought to life.
It was clear that Daniel's goal was to use elements from a classic genre, the Western, reframing it through the lens of this Latino family, to take the ranch hands that have been usually relegated to the background and bring them to the spotlight with a new, fresh perspective.
In spring of last year, we moved to Nogales for 6 weeks to begin our community outreach, location scouting, and casting process. We met the mayor and community leaders, handed out flyers across the city, and we even threw a potluck to help spread the word. We're out there every single day talking to locals, friends, and family members. We now have the full support of the city, access to amazing locations, and people are excited to help with background, catering, vendors, and any way they can.
We hired acting coach Carlos Fagua to come to Nogales to spearhead the casting process. Carlos is this experienced acting coach and casting director that has worked in movies such as Birds of Passage and Monos. He and Daniel worked to develop a vocabulary with these natural actors and methods to help them inhabit the same space with professional actors.
Latin American cinema has a rich history of working with non-actors, bringing together seasoned professionals and first-timers to construct a narrative that often blurs the line between fiction and documentary. We're portraying a community that doesn't often get a chance to see themselves on screen. So as a director, I want to make sure we stay true to our vision, including actual members of that community. And when we're talking about specific microcosms, like the modern ranching world, bringing non-actors lends a whole new level of truth and honesty and emotion. Their faces tell the story. Keeping in line with this casting mindset, our visual approach is one of raw realism and urgency. Inspired by the naturalist aesthetics of dramas like The Motorcycle Diaries, Winter's Bone, and the films of Chloe Zhao, we will favor a handheld camera that thrusts the audience into this action, conveying a visceral experience while also managing to find the quiet moments, glances, and reactions in the chaos. We're excited to bring it all together and transport audiences to the Nogales of the Weight of Land.
Thank you. You may have seen Nogales on the screen before, but you would never know it, because my community has never stood for itself. It's always stood for somewhere else, such as Tijuana in the Hangover movies, or Oklahoma in the musical of the same name.
The cowboy iconography has been such a staple of American identity for decades, and yet Latino characters have been consistently sidelined to supporting characters, the comedic relief, if not outright antagonists. As you can see, we have our locations, we have plenty of casting options, and we're ready to make this film with the full support of the community of Nogales. And if we do our jobs right, the audience will go home thinking not just about the thrills and edge-of-your-seat moments that Valeria and Javier took them through, but about universal themes such as family, legacy, and the meaning of home. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
Great job, guys. What an amazing film. Who has questions?
My initial question was about your community approach, but it was literally the presentation, so well done.
Thank you.
So now, conversely, who are you planning to bring in from the outside? Like, what departments will be built, from the outside of the community?
Maybe you can give the producer answer. I give the director answer now.
We're interviewing a number of key crew members from Arizona and also California. I actually just finished shooting a lower budget film in Nogales, and the majority of our crew was from LA, so I know the drive time really well, all the rental houses, and we've also been in touch with the Tucson Film Commission that's been a huge supporter since they're trying to bring film back to the States. That's given us a list of just incredible resources in terms of crew, catering, vendors, et cetera. So it'll be a mix of both, but we really want to use it also to teach the community that doesn't necessarily have resources to learn film.
Yeah.
In my small town, I mean, I never even knew it was a possibility, so we are really looking to teach younger filmmakers as well.
Yeah, and as far as casting goes, most of the cast is going to be locals from the area, particularly in the case of the Estradas, but we are looking to bring more recognizable names for the Langmore family, both because it suits our narrative purposes. In the story, the Estradas are the underdogs, if you will, and it makes sense that the audience have never seen these people before because they are not particularly well known in their community, whereas the Langmores are, if you will, the celebrities, right? Everybody knows them, they are the most powerful people, so bringing known faces, I think, helps convey that to the audience and also perhaps reach a wider audience as well.
I have a question. First of all, thank you for sharing this with us. It's a great story. I'm interested to know a little bit about the relationships between the Langmores and the ranch hands initially and how that dynamic changes in your story. The conflict I saw between the brother and sister kind of changed and their personalities switched at the end. How does their relationship progress with the Langmores afterwards?
So the Estrada relationships with the Langmores, I based off certain relationships that are very common in Brazil and I think other parts of Latin America between families and people that work for them, such as maid or like domestic workers. And it's a very unique, strange phenomenon because this is someone that, it's in your house every day, makes your food, does your laundry, but they are not really family, right? So in Brazil and I think Latin America in general, it's in the everyday life, you have very intimate relationships with people across racial and social lines. But the whole point of that is that once the Estradas, like, let's say, gain status, suddenly they have land and assets, and that it should, if you will, put the families on sort of like a similar level. Those lines there before were very subtle start to reveal themselves. So the idea was to sort of show how, they might have grown up together, their kids grew up together, but once things get real, you see that that's not really how they feel.
Great, thank you.
I have maybe an odd question. I mean, first, I love y'all's project, and it's so dynamic and kind of multi-genre, and it's really fun to sort of watch something straddle the line between like drama and thriller. And what I kind of love about our medium is that it's a feeling one. So not to reduce it to this, but you've shot your film, you've been through 20 weeks of post, and you're premiering it. As the lights are coming back on, as credits are rolling, I'm really just curious, quite specifically, like what is the feeling you want people to have had just watching the movie? And not even like esoterically or, existentially, but really just, I think simply, like what is the sort of lingering feeling you really hope people to have on this?
Of hope and resilience. I think progress is often a case of 2 steps forwards, 1 step back. And I think the story kind of has that note at the end, the idea that there were struggles and there were hard times, but there may be something better in the future for this family. I think that feeling of hope is what I hope people take away from it. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
That's it.
Okay.
That's it, awesome.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to see how you do the actors and the non-actors, but thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You asked my question about 10 times better than I could have asked it.
All right. More to come. Up next, we have Smoking Tigers. Hi.
Hi.
Welcome, guys. Thank you for being here. Good luck.
Hi, my name is Shelly Yo, and I'm the writer-director of Smoking Tigers.
Hi, my name is Guoguo, the producer of Smoking Tigers.
So growing up, my mom was obsessed with education. She believed that education was the only way to have a successful life in America and was adamant that I go to the best college possible. So she signed me up for an SAT boot camp, known in Korean communities as Hagwon. At Hagwon, I met new friends from different schools and neighborhoods, but I quickly felt like an outsider. I was raised by a single parent and grew up in a small apartment in the back of a strip mall. My friends grew up in mini mansions, and their families owned factories. To me, they were the ideal American dream, while my family was barely getting by. I felt shame about my upbringing, and I hid my true self from them. This shame later birthed the story of Smoking Tigers, a coming-of-age story of a Korean-American teen named Hayoung, who joins Hagwon and begins to question her ideas of family, happiness, and success in America. Here's more on our story. Hi, my name is Shelly Yo, and I'm the writer and director of Smoking Tigers. Here's our story. Smoking Tigers starts inside a pristine suburban house with a 16-year-old Korean-American girl named Hayoung. Hayoung is sharp, reserved, but rough around the edges. Ever since her parents' separation, she shut herself off from everyone around her. Hayoung follows her charismatic father, Appa, on his expeditions around town as he sells carpet to Korean suburbanites. And it's during these trips that Hayoung has a taste of what life could be like if her parents never separated, even though deep down she knows it's inevitable. And it's during these trips Hayoung starts stealing from these families. The stolen objects are small and undetectable when lost, but are subtle reminders of the life Hayoung longs for. As father and daughter drive off, pristine suburbia turns into a dismal cityscape. Appa drops Hayoung off in front of a dingy apartment where Hayoung lives with her mom, 엄마, and younger sister, Ara. Hayoung blames 엄마 for her parents' separation and closes herself off from her. Desperate to build a bond, 엄마 drags her daughters around the city while she runs errands. In the baking summer heat, the trio walk through Koreatown when they run into 엄마's old church friend, who brags about her daughter attending Stanford for a summer program. Full of fear of being a bad parent and Hayoung's entire life being wasted, 엄마 immediately signs Hayoung up for Hagwon, an academic boot camp. Hayoung now thinks her summer is doomed. But much to Hayoung's surprise, Hagwon isn't so bad. Hayoung makes a new friend, Rose, a loud and outgoing 16-year-old, and quickly falls in love with June, a magnetic and affectionate 16-year-old boy. As she falls deeper and deeper into their world, Hayoung quickly discovers the vast wealth differences between her and her new friends and hides her true self from them, even going so far as to lie about where she lives. Dreaming of having the perfect family, Hayoung breaks into a model home still in construction in a newly developed suburban community. She admires the high ceilings and the rooms the size of her entire apartment. As she walks through the rooms, the house slowly comes to life. Lights turn on, furniture is in place. 엄마 and Appa are in the kitchen and in love. In this surreal moment, Hayoung imagines her family living together again. It's haunting and magical. As Hayoung continues to hide herself from her new friends, she starts hearing her friends' comments about loser immigrants. They say people are poor because they're lazy. Hayoung is reminded of her working-class parents and knows those comments are invalid, but she stays silent. Instead, her stealing habits escalate. Unknowingly, Hayoung steals a gold necklace from a classmate's house. She wears it to Hagwon, but gets caught. Hayoung's secrets are exposed, and she's deeply humiliated. Just as she thought things couldn't get worse, Appa tells Hayoung he's moving to Korea. Hayoung explodes. She calls Appa a coward for abandoning them and runs away. On the day of his departure, Hayoung refuses to go to the airport to see Appa off. She can't bring herself to say goodbye. Instead, she goes to the model home, but finds it sold. Outside, she sees her family's initials, one she's carved during her secret visits, and is reminded of them. She calls 엄마, desperate to reunite with Appa one last time, but 엄마 tells Hayoung Appa is gone. Back home, Hayoung finds Appa's jacket and wears it. Hayoung realizes that even though her life doesn't match the immaculate lifestyles she's seen in magazines and television, there's beauty in all of their brokenness. Like Hayoung, I felt displaced, alienated, and a sense of shame of who I am. During these low periods of my life, movies became my comfort. Growing up with coming-of-age stories, however, I failed to see any that truly reflected my experience. That's why in this increasingly turbulent world, it's important for culturally specific and intimate films like Smoking Tigers to exist. By delving deep into the intimacies of a Korean-American family, it'll give voice to those who have ever felt like an outsider, even in a community that seems to be for them. In order to tell this story authentically, I need a partner who shares the same passion and dedication toward this story. And I'm lucky that I found Guoguo, a brilliant creative producer. Not only does she have experience producing award-winning projects that premiered at Cannes, Berlin, Sundance, and more, most recently I've had the pleasure of witnessing her skills firsthand. During the pandemic, we made a proof-of-concept short titled Soft Sounds Appealing Fruit in partnership with Indeed and Hillman Grad's Rising Voices, and the short premiered at Tribeca. I'm extremely honored to be working with her on this production.
When Shelley and I met, I was immediately drawn to Shelley's beautiful and genuine writing, her sincerity, and her work ethic. In addition to her films being streamed on HBO, being recognized by SF Film, and having earned AT&T's Inspiration Award and many more, I'm more impressed by the way she leads on and off set. She has the power of making everyone feel extremely respected and comfortable while holding true to her own vision. Smoking Tigers will be shot in Los Angeles, where Shelly and I are based. We're planning to shoot this October for around 25 days. We have already gotten the wheels moving and plan to partner up with Ana Francesca Solano, the cinematographer of Lulu Wants the Farewell, and previous collaborators Katie Park, the hair and makeup artist of Minari, Stacey Moon, the editor of The Chair, and Sunrak Choi, the sound designer of Bong Joon-ho's Snowpiercer. As BIPOC filmmakers, we know the importance of being seen in front of and behind the camera. In our short, 100% of our cast were BIPOC talents and 85% of our behind-the-camera crew were BIPOC or from underrepresented communities. We strive for the same, if not higher, representation during the making of Smoking Tigers. This isn't just a quota for us. It is our commitment to combine our collective experiences and voices to make a film by the community, for the community.
Smoking Tigers will have a unique and deliberate style. Think of Bora Kim's House of Hummingbird and Andrew On's Spa Night for the subtle undertones and emotional pacing. Think of Barry Jenkins' Moonlight and David Lowery's A Ghost Story for the brief moments of surrealism squeezed between the cracks of everyday life. Think of all these elements wrapped up in culturally specific stories like Lee Isaac Chung's Minari and Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird. In addition to films, we have drawn inspiration from Asian American photographers Janice Chung, Roni On, and Jessica Chow, whose intimate portraits of Asian Americans and Asian youth have fueled Smoking Tigers to what it is today. To ensure that some of the more complicated moments hold the emotion we strive for, we workshop scenes with Unreal Engine and Tribeca. Using pre-visualization techniques for precise blocking and intricate shot design, our team is able to know exactly what we need for production and can ensure the flow of the story for emotional impact. I was one iteration of thousands of young Hayoungs, and I wish I had the opportunity to see a film like Smoking Tigers when I was growing up, to tell me it's okay to be different and that there's no shame in being yourself. Smoking Tigers is not just a film for my generation and generations past, but for the future. It's a universal story that will bring audiences to an intimate world they have never seen before.
Thank you so much for watching. As an immigrant myself, I understand how hard it is to learn a new language, to understand a new culture, and to make a living when you know no one. Yet, you bear this almost impossible hope that if you work hard enough, the American dreams you saw in the movies will come true one day. But like what's portrayed so beautifully in Smoking Tigers, it's never that simple.
This past year, I experienced Hagwon from the other side. As a teacher, teaching has opened my eyes to the new forms of alienation that kids today experience. I've seen their confusion when talking about climate change, their anger when hearing about hate crimes, and their anxieties as they scroll through social media. I've also seen how music and movies excite them and bring them new understandings of the world. Not only have they instilled my desire to tell this story, they've shown me that we seek connection, now more than ever. Our film is a letter to anyone who has ever felt stifled by shame and loneliness. With Smoking Tigers, we want to celebrate the beauty and pain of coming from an immigrant family and uplift Asian Americans in the modern day. This is a story that I love, a story that we've carried with us for a long time, and a story we cannot wait to share with the world. And we hope you'll join us on our journey. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We seek human connection more than ever. That is very, very true. Who has questions? Leslie?
I have a question. Thank you for the beautiful presentation. I really feel the intimacy of this personal story. But I wanted to understand a little bit more about the locations that you're thinking of using. I know it's going to be shot in LA, but how you're going to create the world that feels like home and the world that you feel very alienated from, and just some of the locations that you're thinking of using.
Yeah, so definitely how we want to approach locations is how we want to have the different shooting styles. When it comes to certain locations, we'll feel claustrophobic the way Ha-young, our main character, feels claustrophobic. In the bigger spaces, we'll see how she feels small in these expansive mansions. We'll be able to observe her in these different locations and see how she feels by the camera.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing. I love this story. I'm a total magnet for working class stories. My question is about the use of magical realism. You mentioned it in the context of the model home. But in your presentation, you talk about those kind of slips of surrealism. So I'm interested in the magical realism thread throughout, and also this thread of beauty. You have this beautiful turn at the end where essentially your protagonist is able to see her own living environment, in a new way, which I think is really lovely. But when I think about those things and also what it means to grow up working class, those things were always there, So I'm just kind of curious about if you've given a thought about how it's, interwoven and kind of grows to crescendo.
Yeah, so when it comes to feeling suffocated in a space, the story takes place at the peak of summer and ends at the end of summer. So in the beginning, we feel the heat of Los Angeles. We feel suffocated with her. But by the end, we feel the fall coming in. The change of seasons literally brings a gust of wind into the apartment where she lives, and we'll feel that kind of freedom and liberation that she feels by the end of the story. And when it comes to the moments of magical realism, that's honestly one of my favorite parts of this entire story is that model home. It's a pillar of our entire script. And there are small little moments after that scene where we see these little sprinkles of magical realism throughout. Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question for you guys. So, how do you think, we've seen many films in Los Angeles, sort of to Leslie's point. Is there any way that you want to shoot LA differently for your particular film?
That's a great question. When it comes to shooting in Los Angeles, we definitely want to highlight Koreatown. It's such an important part of this story, and it's a part of films that we haven't yet seen too much of. We've seen stories of Korean Americans in New York or, in Midwest, but Koreatown is such a vibrant place that deserves its own film, and so we definitely want to highlight that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I love K-Town. Next, we have Paper Trail. Welcome, welcome. Good luck, guys.
So, the other day I was browsing Twitter, which is what I do at work when I get bored, right? And I saw this tweet that was like, what's the first sign of gentrification in any black neighborhood, right? And some people were saying, like, when you can start using Apple Pay at the bodega, or when Starbucks opens up. But almost unanimously, people said the first time that you see a white person jogging in your neighborhood. So I was thinking about the first time I saw a white person jogging in my granddad's neighborhood in Northwest Philly, and she was like jogging. Like, she had on a full Lululemon outfit, a waist bag, and she had like, what is it, like those hydration backpacks? And I was just like, whoa, the neighborhood is never gonna be the same. My name is Rachel Moten, and I'm a filmmaker from Philly. My work has been supported by SF Film, Sundance, TIFF, The Gotham, and now Tribeca. Ooh. But I think what's really important about me as a storyteller is that I love telling stories of marginalized people to promote empathy, but by using comedy.
And I'm Gia Rigoli. I'm one of the producers of the film. Welcome to the world of Paper Trail.
Rolling? Mm-hmm. Influencer couple, take 3. And action.
I was inspired to write Paper Trail because it's directly based on my own experiences. As a Black woman from Philly who went to a college that is gentrifying Black neighborhoods, I felt like I was directly aiding to the displacement of my family and friends. I've also done a lot of homework for People for Money. Sorry to my mom and dad because I know that they're watching this. And I spent a lot of time thinking about what it means that my voice was being repurposed for other people. I decided to make Paper Trail dark comedy because I believe that sometimes as a marginalized person, the best tactic I have for processing trauma is to laugh through it. I'm Rachel Moten. I'm Rachel Moten. I'm Rachel Moten. I'm actually Rachel Moten. I'm a filmmaker and educator from Philly, and this is my pitch video for my feature film, Paper Trail. Paper Trail is a dark comedy film about performative activism and gentrification in my hometown, Philly. The story follows Bria and Miles Ross, 2 genius Black teenagers who find out they're at risk of eviction and decide to come up with a plan to save their family's home. Their plan? Doing local college students' homework for money. Their own business, Student Anonymous, and the hype takes over the campus. When one of their clients, Whitney, requests an essay for her urban studies class, Bria writes her an amazing, thoughtful essay about gentrification. Whitney is challenged by another classmate during her presentation, and their heated debate goes viral, with Whitney just pulling direct quotes from Bria's writing. With the video circulating on Twitter and Instagram, in seconds, Whitney gains a huge following and becomes an activist. Suddenly now famous with a book deal on the horizon, Whitney is desperate for Bria and Miles to keep writing content so she can hold on to her newfound fame. When the siblings finally find out it's Whitney who's been requesting so many essays about gentrification, they're faced with a moral dilemma. Should they let this white woman use their Black voices for her personal gain, even if it's potentially helping their community? The film ends with a huge protest planned by Whitney, with music and merch and dancing. Think Wochella. Bria and Miles confront her, and she decides to give them the agency to finally use their own voices to talk about gentrification. But when they address the crowd, no one listens to them. The people are only interested in their message when it comes from a white person.
I can't believe you just said that to me. It be your own people. Anyway.
Let's talk character arcs. Much like many moody teenagers, Bria believes that her voice doesn't matter, and she won't be successful until she leaves her hometown. When her only option is to stay in Philly, she learns through the cheating business and her eventual confrontation with Whitney that her voice does matter. Meanwhile, Miles is dealing with his own battles. He has to write a Common App essay for his college applications and is tasked with finding someone in the community to write a profile on. He chooses to write about the white lady, a homeless Black woman who lost her home years ago and now dresses in all white. After putting her in danger while researching her, he realizes that he's being exploitative and starts fresh. And because even villains can have a change of heart, Whitney also has a revelation. She starts out the film desperate to be famous by any means necessary. She's later confronted by Bria and Miles and tries to allow them to reclaim their voices. Nobody's interested in hearing from them. At the end of the film, Kel, Miles' best friend, who's been haunted by visions of a white jogger in the neighborhood, is finally convinced that the battle is over and the gentrifiers have lost. Much to his surprise, he turns onto his block and finds it filled with white joggers. It's too late. Gentrification is already here. My team and I have hired a line producer to create a preliminary budget and schedule, have begun engaging with local filmmakers and community leaders in North Philly, and are currently interviewing for the rest of our key crew. We plan to have an open call for our 2 lead roles as we want to be intentional about discovering exciting new local talent. Now, more than ever, I feel ready to move into production. I have an amazing team of supporters behind me, and I'm excited to bring Paper Trail to life. Visually, I intend for Paper Trail to be very playful. Philly has notably been called one of the ugliest cities in America. To riff off this, the Philly of Paper Trail will have an almost fantasy-like beauty through production design and color. While the Black neighborhood in the film will be exaggerated and bright, the college areas will be muted and gray. I love the idea of the aesthetics of the film to be more rooted in fantasy, as I really want to lean into the absurdity of the project. Racism as a concept is just so absurd that I think by punching up on the absurdity, Paper Trail is a special project. I highlight this by using elements of magical realism, satire, and overall silliness. I'm not a fan of using traumatic imagery to capture an audience, and I think that one thing that sets Paper Trail apart from other films about Black trauma is that it's playful but shocking enough to make audiences laugh and listen. One fun tactic I use to highlight the absurdity of the racism in Paper Trail is the use of overdub. Whenever Bria and Miles' essays are presented by white Commonwealth students, their voices are dubbed in. No one except the siblings can recognize the sound of their own voices. I've been working on Paper Trail with my team for the past 3 years. We have been fortunate enough to receive grants and support from the Sundance Institute, SF Film, the Westridge Foundation, the Gotham, and TIP. Through the support of these amazing institutions, we've been able to workshop and refine the script and know that we are ready to go. This will be the third project that I've worked on with cinematographer Tehila De Castro. She's an incredible DP and friend, and we have developed our own creative language. Our creative vision for Paper Trail is going to shine a light on Philadelphia in a way that only we can. Tehila and I also understand our budget and limitations, so we've thought carefully about utilizing natural light and specific framing to be cost efficient without sacrificing aesthetics. On paper, a film in a college setting automatically makes you think of expensive college locations and hundreds of extras. Fortunately, through my work as a film teacher at a local Philly college, I have a solid connection for potential locations. While writing Paper Trail, I spent a lot of time reflecting on what it's like to have your voice repurposed for other people. After watching this video back, it's clear to see that it's a very bizarre experience. I hope that you're able to see both my voice and my story are unique and no one else can tell it. So let's work together and bring Paper Trail to life. I hope you all enjoyed that more than I did. Over the last 5 years while writing Paper Trail, I've seen the neighborhood change drastically. My granddad even ended up selling his house because the gentrification in the neighborhood became too much for him. I remember literally taking breaks from writing this script to pack boxes of my family's items up that had been in our house for decades. Okay, this sounds so corny, but like losing that house kind of felt like losing a part of my identity. At the same time, there was a call to action on social media about activism, right? Who here remembers the summer of 2020? Raise your hand if you posted a black square. Raise your hand if you were scared. I was. But I was mostly scared because I was seeing racist people post Black Lives Matter, and I was just super confused. Sorry, y'all, I need my cue cards, I'm not gonna lie. When activism becomes self-centered, it damages social justice movements. And that's why it's so important to make Paper Trail now and to tell this story in Philly.
Rachel's a very bold and collaborative filmmaker. Her unique voice and point of view shine through in all of her work. The film tackles very timely issues with her eccentric brand of humor in a way that hasn't been seen on screen before. I can't think of a better person to tell this story.
We have an amazing script, a wonderful team, and the support of my community. All we need is your help to make this film come to life. Oh, and thank you so much. I'm ready for questions.
Amazing, yes. No one tells minority stories like minorities, so thank you. Who has questions? All right. Yes, ladies.
I'll start. Thank you for this. It's very funny. And yes, I talk about gentrification all the time. But I love the way we got into the story about writing the papers in order to save the home and how that took us through the journey of this social commentary. I'm also curious, do they save the home at the end, or what happens at the end? I mean, do we satisfy that part of the story in your telling of it, or does it just go right into the voices, not being able to speak for yourself? Like, it feels like to me like you have two separate stories that definitely tie together, but I'm wondering how you resolve them.
Yeah, for sure. So they end up saving the house at the end, but they don't tell their mom how they made the money.
Mm-hmm.
So their mom is super religious, and she believes that God just blessed them with a miracle.
Won't he do it?
Yes, he will. Amen.
Praise.
And then was there a second part to your question? I'm sorry.
I was just asking about the resolve at the end, but
Yeah. And I think one other thing that's important to say is that because gentrification is still happening, at the ending scene, Kel, this character who is seeing this vision of a white jogger throughout the story, turns onto his block and sees that it's filled with hundreds of white joggers. So even though they saved the house, gentrification is not over in Philly.
JD?
First, Philly represent.
Yeah, where are you from?
Cheltenham.
Oh, really? I'm from Germantown.
Girl, what up, fam? So love that, because Philly's not on screen too often. I mean, look, I love the tempo that you have and love the tempo of the piece that you share, because I mean, that kind of was in my head a little bit when I was reading. And I guess like where my question kind of lives is like it's very funny and it's fun and it's playful, but I'm curious because it's also a pretty emotional story too. You know, like what moment in your story do you really need like everything to settle that you want to sort of like cut through and not even hurt, but I think, you know, it's almost like where do you want people to cry? And I know that not all stories require that, but just in your sort of vision for it, like what is that moment in the story?
Yeah, I think that right before the Wochella moment, there's this moment where Bria and Miles are just like talking to Whitney for the first time, kind of trying to level with her. And she has this moment where she does like the white girl cry when she's sad. But I really want the audience to like take a beat and just think about what Bria and Miles are telling her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool.
I have one adjacent. There's, you know how the last couple of years we're obsessed with swindler stories?
Yeah.
Like obsessed with them. I'm wondering, two questions. One, do you have any plans, you know, as Bria and Miles discover this hustle, basically, in that vein, in a very like, you know, do you have any stylistic plans for the like, ah, shit?
Yeah.
We just figured out some way to make some guap. That's question one. And then two, with the character of the white lady, how do you see that role? Do you know what I mean? Like in the context of it being a symbol, what do you see that as a symbol of in your story? You know, because it's kind of rife for, you know, on one hand, a like potential subversive remix of magical Negroism.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, to JD's point, it's also an opportunity for some real poignancy.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering how you're like framing.
Okay, well, first off, I love a scammer, I won't lie. I love a scammer story. And I think that one part of Paper Trail where we really hone in on that is when Bria and Miles first start making that money, and they're having like, I think there's like a cute montage of when they're like rolling in the money and like just going crazy. And for your second question, I don't know, I really, like, I wanted to play off like that magical Negro thing, but I also really thought about like, she's an unheard voice. Like, she's literally a silent black woman who walks around the neighborhood and is laughed at. And I just think that there's something really powerful about that.
Yeah. Kellen, you had a question?
First of all, hilarious. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
If we laugh half as much at the film as we do at the presentation, to me it's a success. But tell me a little bit about, you know, the film has just ended. People have watched it. The audience walks out of the theater, and they do what? You know, your dream sequence.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Well, I'm hoping that like the black community of North Philly and other people who are experiencing gentrification have an opportunity to laugh, but also cry if they need to like have a release after. And I'm hoping for non-black people and just people who are not experiencing gentrification to have this moment where they're like, am I Whitney? Like, am I a person who's like super performative and not actually helping? And what can I do to change that?
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That is Paper Trail.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Very, very funny. Okay. Our fourth film is Mutt. Hi, guys. Hi. Good luck.
Hi, hello. My name is Vuk Lungalov Klotz. I'm a filmmaker, I'm a writer, I'm a director. I'm also mixed. I'm Chilean, I'm Serbian, I'm trans, and I'm gay. I know that I can be a bit of a mouthful, but I don't think anyone should ever abbreviate themselves. Our film is called Mutt. It centers around Fena, a transgender Chilean American who is forced to reconnect with 3 people from his past over the course of one day in New York City.
Hi, my name is Alexander Stegmeyer. I'm one of the producers of Mutt, and we're really excited to show you more about our film right now.
Mutt centers around Fenya, a Chilean-American trans guy in his mid-20s who pushed some pretty important people out of his life when he transitioned 2 years ago. Now he's forced to reconnect with 3 people from his past: his straight ex-boyfriend, his younger half-sister, and his foreign father. Over the course of 24 hours, our protagonist has to race against the clock in order to find a car to go pick up his dad at the airport. The story starts at 10 p.m. Fenya is headed to a bar with friends, trying to distract himself from the fact that tomorrow he's meeting his estranged father. This is a pretty big deal. It's been a few years since they last saw each other, and already having a dad overseas puts a lot of stress in trying to understand each other. Fenya being trans is only one of the many problems that they have. While at the club, Fenya steps out to take a call from his dad, and all of a sudden, he sees his ex-boyfriend, John, show up. They haven't seen each other since he started transitioning, and he has no idea how his ex is going to react to him changing. But Fenya, never one to let things go, just walks up to him and says hi. It's awkward and weird, but after a few drinks, they decide to go on a stroll through the city and talk about their past. Now they're alone, they're feeling feelings, and they end up kissing. The next morning, Fenya is pleased to find John in his bed, but he quickly realizes that John might regret last night, and this crushes Fenya. Fenya needs John to accept him. He needs proof that he's still lovable in his true form by the same people that loved him before he transitioned. And knowing this is almost more important to Fenya than John or love itself. Fenya still has a lot to do today. His dad lands at 7, so he goes to work hungover and throws up everywhere. All of a sudden, his boss is knocking on the door. There's someone waiting for him. It's Zoe, his 13-year-old half-sister. They haven't seen each other since the mom excommunicated Fenya from the family. Fenya doesn't know what to do. He starts asking questions and freaking out, but Zoe's not saying anything, and she just runs to the bathroom. Fenya gets worried and he goes to check on her. He somehow realizes that she just got her period for the first time. Fenya just deals with it. He doesn't make a big fuss about it. He himself has had a period before, and he understands that Zoe had nowhere to go and that she's trusting him with something really important. Ultimately, Zoe doesn't care that Fenya's trans. She begs him to tag along on his day, and he agrees. Little by little, Fenya's plans for the day start falling apart, and after exhausting all of his options, Fenya has nowhere to turn but his ex-boyfriend, John. Fenya reluctantly asks to borrow his van, and he says yes. So finally, Fenya has a car, and on his way to the airport, he drops Zoe off at home, but not before the two have a tender, understanding conversation. Fenya explains his guilt for having to abandon Zoe, and Zoe seems to forgive him, but with the one condition that he never ever abandon her again. Fenya finally gets to the airport. He's scared, and anxious, and tired, but he goes inside to get his dad, and it's awkward right away. All the intentions Fenya had set to impress his dad are out the window. He is a wreck, and this is the first time his dad is seeing him in his true gender identity. They get in the car and immediately start fighting about Fenya's transition. This sets Fenya off. He wants to be seen as a son, not just a trans person. At this point, it's past midnight, and he looks terrible. Fenya drops his dad off, readies himself, and goes to return the car. Now, in the climax of the movie, Fenya attempts to kiss John to make things better, but he rejects him, and he makes it clear they're not apart because of Fenya's gender identity. They're apart because Fenya is just too selfish. This forces Fenya to finally realize that he's the one that's been pushing people away, and that it's time to open up. Raw and defeated, Fenya returns home and accidentally wakes up his dad. To his surprise, his dad isn't angry at him and instead comforts him with a very touching story. Looking out into the city, for the first time in a very long time, Fenya feels loved. To really put us in Fenya's perspective, the entire movie will be handheld. If Fenya can catch a breath, we can't either. There's a very non-stop quality to this movie. We're coming in and out of locations, everything is happening, and we're always running late. New York has been shot a million times, and I just want to shoot it the way it is. Loud, alive, dirty, beautiful, and so crowded. We also just want to shoot the body as is, never making a big deal out of it. Everything is normal, and everything forms part of us being humans. The whole point of having a 13-year-old deal with her period and have a trans man help her is to show that it's difficult to feel at home in your body, and we're all figuring it out. It's really important for us to show a trans body on screen. It's not something we see often. In letting John see Finya's scars for the first time, we let the audience into that moment and help normalize it.
Queerness has never been more mainstream, and yet over 100 anti-LGBTQ laws have been introduced in over 40 states this year alone. Even within the queer community, stories like this are uncommon, and that's despite the fact that roughly 20% of Gen Z identifies as queer, and over 1.4 million American adults identify as transgender.
I want to make a movie that shows my intersectionality. Like Finya, I'm bilingual, bicultural, and I'm queer. I am proud to call myself a mutt, and I think a lot of people in the United States are too. There's only one movie I've seen that stars a trans man actor. It's an indie film made in 2001 by Silas Howard. Silas Howard has since then directed many TV shows and is also the executive producer of Mutt.
The thing about this movie is it isn't made for just one type of person. It's a movie that, regardless of where you live on the political spectrum, regardless of your gender identity, your sexuality, or ethnicity, you will be able to see yourself in some aspect of Finya's life.
Mutt has participated in 3 Sundance Labs, and Vuk is more than ready. He spent 7 years working in production and has shadowed multiple directors.
So we've scouted locations, we've identified key cast and crew, we have even conducted our 2-year search to find our trans male lead. The time to tell this story is now.
This film would be a happy place to go to when you're sad, to pick you up, to let you know that you're not alone. There are no stories like this. There literally isn't a story by a transgender man with a transgender actor in it. This is a truly untold story, and it's time for us to scream it at the top of our lungs to say, here we are, and here we are beautiful. And what could be more important than that? Hi again. I grew up in Chile. I had a bit of a rough upbringing, and even though leaving at an early age was the best thing for me at the time, I also had to leave my entire country and my little sister behind. So this film started as an apology letter to her for being absent, really placing at the heart of the movie what it means to be a role model while being queer. And as I kept writing, my film grew to include so many things that I think are really important to be asking right now. Who teaches femininity and masculinity? Is love defined by gender? And what does a family actually look like? My community really needs this film. There is so much violence continuously happening against trans people. And I think a lot of that comes from ignorance. People are afraid of what they don't know. So that is why it's so important for us to see trans people on screen, to get to know them, and for us to see ourselves too. This is a story that tells us, despite all of our differences, at the end of the day, we're all struggling with pretty similar things. It's a film about what it means to find your place in the world. And we're really ready to make it. Like we said, we scouted locations, we have key cast and crew members locked in, and we have a community that we've been building for years. So for anybody out there who ever felt like they didn't know a trans person, well, I hope that now you do. You know me. Come talk to me. And you know, my hope is that after you watch this movie, you'll feel like you know one more. So thank you so much, and happy Pride, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Touching, personal story. Who has questions? Go ahead, Karen.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I get the sense that you want to build anxiety, because I felt anxious watching. In 24 hours, he has to deal with his boyfriend, his sister, he needs a car, his estranged dad, and then you said it's gonna be handheld and it's always late. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna bite my nails off. Like, I felt really anxious, and I'm guessing that's by design. And with that, how do you plan to change the way you shoot it, the way you tell the story towards the end when he becomes more accepting of who he is? Because I get that that's probably what you explained in there, that he has to accept himself.
Yeah, it is a little bit anxiety-inducing, but there are pockets of calmness throughout. There are a few moments where you get to sit down with the boyfriend, with the little sister, and the father that actually probably won't be handheld and will let us breathe for a second. And it's exhausting being trans. I think this character is exhausted, and part of that helps him also just realize that he's the one putting up barriers. But yeah, it is intentional. And
great.
Joanna?
I just love identity stories that are essentially a reminder that we have other problems other than the actual thing, that other people, like, you know, from the outside, it's often not what we're thinking about in the moment. So I just really love the story. And my question is a question that I'm always asking myself, which is about the balance between what I call edutaining, you know, what responsibility you feel or you have to strike the balance between honoring the story as it is, you know, as the kind of from like the inside out, and also your responsibility to the audience to educate.
Yeah.
So how do you see yourself kind of striking that balance, you know, and just honestly, just like to cut to the quick, you know, ensuring that you're not exposing your lead actor in a way that feels, you know, like he's gonna need therapy afterwards.
Totally. He's here in the audience, by the way, the lead actor. So, well, I think this film opens up a space of empathy. You have three people that are very specific: the father, the little sister, and the next boyfriend who had a straight relationship, right? So all these people are coming at him with fear. The little sister really provides a space to breathe and just show him as is.
Yeah.
And I think as a trans person that wants to make movies like this, I already know that I'm always going to have to be advocating and asking questions, and that's okay. And I didn't write this script answering questions, but that is a natural part of being trans, so a lot of those questions are in the script. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did.
Thank you.
Hey, I love this story so much. You know, and what it reminds me of a little bit is, you know, in the sort of pendulum swing of, you know, us all being able to tell stories that about characters who we don't get to see often. Part of what we're almost allowed to do more is show our faults too. You know, it doesn't always have to be exceptionalism, and that's something that, yeah, I mean, just as a black filmmaker, I really relate to. So my question, oddly tied to DeWanda's, is really of Phineas' balance, because, you know, on one end, he is learning something, and there is fault of his that we're kind of discovering, but also it's like, it's the lens of the movie, you know, and wanting to be behind them and be excited for them and, you know, aligned with their goals. So I guess less about how it is in the script, because I think it's very effective in the script, but in terms of how you want to shoot that balance, you know, the moments of being behind them and the moments of wishing they did X. I'd love to just hear what you're thinking about that.
For sure. I think trans characters are always portrayed as either martyrs or saviors or horrible people that we don't want to talk to. I think this film strikes that balance of this is a hero and an anti-hero. This is a person that goes between two things. It's someone that reminds you of your brother, of your cousin, of a friend you used to have in college. So I think you kind of talked about it in your question, but there are moments where you really hate him, and then you just realize that he's carrying a lot of weight. Every time you see someone in the subway or in the street, they're going through their own day. And I think this is a story that really lets us like see that. Like, this is one trans person, but this is just one day for him, and he has to be perfect the whole time. And he isn't. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. That was really, really great.
Thank you. Thank you.
So far, we've had 4, and we have one more. Our last, but not least, film. pitch that we have is Under the Lights. Come on out, guys. Good luck.
Hi, my name is Miles. I'm the writer and director of Under the Lights.
And I'm Natalie Metzger. I'm the producer.
This is a story that I chose to keep untold. I have epilepsy, which is a very highly stigmatized disease that can also be fatal. And so it felt way too personal and way too sensitive for me to share. Epilepsy very much stole my childhood. I didn't get to be a kid. And so I wasn't sure that I wanted to come out in front of the internet with my story and maybe have it limit my adulthood. And then one day, a boy with epilepsy comes up to me and he tells me that he has never made a friend before. This person was 15 years old. Right now, my community is asking the question, why are people so afraid of us? There are kids that I've met as an advocate who are asking if it's reasonable for them to have dreams. That was a wake-up call moment for me. I became a filmmaker at 15 because I believed in the power of movies to put a person in another person's shoes, and that act builds a better world. It took me 10 years of making movies to finally understand that in putting my feelings first, in hiding my story, I was ignoring the reason I became a filmmaker in the first place. There are 60 million people in the world living with epilepsy who have never seen an authentic, empathetic portrayal of their existence on screen. As a result of that, we live in the dark. We are invisible. The Untold Stories panel has the power to change that today. So I'm Miles. I'm a filmmaker. I do have epilepsy. This is our story.
Hi, I'm Miles, and I'm the writer and director of Under the Lights. I'm a filmmaker with epilepsy, and the stakes have never been higher for my community. So today, I'm taking my shot to change that. Under the Lights is the story of 17-year-old Sam, a boy with epilepsy so desperate to feel like a regular kid, he goes to prom knowing that the lights will make him have a seizure, just to feel normal one time. We're invisible. 1 in 26 people have epilepsy. That's a person in every theater. Depression is twice as common with us, and the suicide rate 22% higher. In the film, Sam says, "You know what the worst part of epilepsy is? It's not seizures, it's people. It's not so much seizures that keep us down. It's the ignorance of a world unwilling to include us." The film opens with Sam staring into a flickering streetlight. He's trying to test his brain to see if he'll be safe against lights at prom. And the light wins. It's a modern Rapunzel story. Sam's urged to stay inside, so his house is his tower. He has a long braid of wires that monitors his brain waves, and in his mind, his mother's the witch. He can no longer drive, and his mom starts to treat him like an infant. Sam starts to hide his deepest fears for his future behind a wit that really only he understands. In isolation, he bonds with his math tutor, Molly, and he won't discuss his condition with her because he wants her to clear a path for him to get to prom. While his mom works, she's hired an 11-year-old babysitter who has no trouble revealing his most intimate secrets. Molly has her own secret. Her mother's health is declining, so she'll say that prom's pointless, it's just for kids, and she doesn't have time to be a kid. But deep down, just like Sam, all she wants is to be a kid. But Molly misses the point that Sam needs a friend and not a caretaker. At a pool party, Sam seizes and nearly drowns just trying to fit in. His mother, in fear, puts him on total lockdown, and he screams that the risk is worth it.
I just want to be normal. One time. Once.
His school bans him from prom so that he won't, quote, ruin it
for other kids. Worse, it was Molly's misguided help that caused it.
Why would you go to prom if you knew that the lights would make you have a seizure?
Because it's worth it. He's determined to go, but when he discovers a chance to help Molly through a family disaster instead, he sacrifices his mission to choose his only friend. The film ends with Molly helping Sam dance under the streetlight, just like the beginning. Because they've chosen to be there for each other, they're able to have a version of the special night they wanted. Tonight, they're just kids, like everybody else. The tone is dramatic, not traumatic. The seizures are actually shot the way I experienced them in real life, as missing frames in consciousness. Scenes indoors are very tight and confined, and Sam's brief independent moments are very vibrant and fluid. The film invites the audience to experience Sam's world the way I see my own. It's that constant longing for simple things that others take for granted, but also the lesson that that feeling is universal. The script placed in the top 1% of over 8,000 scripts in the 2021 Academy Nickel Fellowship. Like Sam, I spent most of my childhood inside, closely monitored. I saw close to 100 physicians before I was 18, and I do still struggle with limited independence. But in film, I found purpose, even though film sets are some of the most anti-disability environments around. How many directors can you name that are openly disabled? The reason is that most of us are denied opportunities by projects that just kind of assume we can't do the work. But in the last 10 years of my filmmaking, I've created accommodating sets where my disability has never been a problem. Under the Lights sends a message that disabled filmmakers can be included, and our perspective is valuable. The film has an enormous built-in audience, making it an evergreen story. But this isn't just a social movement. The universal experience of the film is that everyone has a silent struggle. No one wants to feel left out. And all it takes is for somebody to listen. It's a family movie about wanting to see a loved one succeed. The Under the Lights short proved we will succeed. I couldn't believe the response. A year before the release, international fan art came in every day, from kids asking questions about epilepsy. Patients used the film to come out, and one organization sent Under the Lights prom kits to kids who were unable to go. The film won awards at Academy qualifying film festivals, and then the videos came.
Yesterday, I shared a short movie in my Instagram story.
This film is one of the most incredible films I've ever had the privilege of watching. And I just want to thank you for everything you're doing.
We were deeply moved by it.
It's helping me heal.
If I had had this film when I was, a young kid with epilepsy, it would have been the most important thing in the world to me.
I knew from that moment, watching it, that I wasn't alone.
If this film had been out when I was 17, it would have changed my life.
Real change came from the proof of concept for this feature. So imagine what will happen when we tell the whole story.
Hi, my name is Natalie Metzger, and I'm the producer of Under the Lights. I'm also the VP of Production and Development at Vanishing Angle. At Vanishing Angle, we like to support risk-taking filmmakers who are telling a bold story from a unique point of view. The story behind Under the Lights is being told from a filmmaker whose perspective hasn't been included on feature film sets before. I first met Miles at the 2020 Sundance Film Festival, and I was blown away by his passion for independent filmmaking. As I got to work with him, I got to see his incredible work ethic, his creative problem solving, and his artistic drive. I've produced many feature films before that have gone on to win awards and become festival darlings, including Thunder Road, Greener Grass, The Beta Test, and Werewolves Within. I've also produced a lot at this budget level and feel confident that we can create a film with a very high production value. Both with my established connections with cast and crew, plus SAG's diversity and casting incentive, plus Miles' strong artistic vision and connection to the material, I think we're going to create something very, very special.
Miles' film, Under the Lights, is one of the single greatest opportunities to end stigma and educate the masses about this far too common disease that has no cure. I cannot overstate how important this film is to the Epilepsy Foundation and the 65 million people living with epilepsy around the world.
I feel so privileged to be part of this amazing project, Under the Lights. I have no doubt that this might be the biggest contribution I can ever make to change this world in my whole career.
Cinema and TV are at the root of most of the stigma that keeps my community silent.
I don't really blame the public for fearing our disability because most people have only seen a seizure in a hospital show or in a horror sequence. They haven't heard our story yet. I'm ready to tell it. Cinema is the answer. The question is if you'll join me. And I sincerely hope that you will. Thank you.
There is no cure for epilepsy. I can't treat seizures, but there is medicine for cruelty. It's empathy. Under the Lights creates an experience that shows that we're more than just the seizures that we have. And it does that by meeting people on a common universal ground that we don't have to understand exactly what the person across from us has been through, but we can understand that we have all felt those same feelings. This moment, this conversation is a historic first for my community. That is a responsibility. It is also an enormous privilege. And so I thank you for this opportunity, and Natalie and I would love to take your questions.
I have a question. Well, congratulations, first of all, on your achievement and on the success of the short film. I'd love to hear a little bit more how your vision on the feature will differ or expand on the short film.
Absolutely. So in 10 minutes, what we covered was the experience that is universal with people with disabilities is that it's really, really hard to watch someone else just go do the thing that you so desperately want to do and that the world and the people in it will deny you. What the feature covers, and this is what is truly untold, is the nuances of what happens behind closed doors. What is it like to be mom? Frankly, my mom, giving up everything you planned for in life just to make sure your family is going to be okay. Having to choose between their independence and the dreams and their safety, that has to be sacrificed. What's it like to be mom? What's it like to be a friend that's struggling to understand and who is asking the wrong questions but does care and does not need to be antagonized, right? Yeah. This film covers all those nuances. It's the story from diagnosis all the way to acceptance, which mirrors anyone's silent struggle, that it is important and necessary to ask for help, and on the other side of the aisle, it is important and necessary to listen.
You have multiple layers of, in examples, I think, of just ableism in your story, including the shame that your supporting character has of having a mother with Alzheimer's, which I think is just a beautifully, almost like, inclusive way of including, like, you too, it's just really kind of expands it. How else in your story, both experientially as a filmmaker, as you've kind of cited, do you see this, I always call, I call it edutaining, but this thread of ableism throughout, because we are all impacted and we all honestly live less full lives because of, just a general lack of access. So how else are you seeing that?
Absolutely. Something that was very important to me in this story was to not follow the traditional trend of disability stories that are very, very black and white and how they send that message, which is normally it is, I'm struggling, you don't understand, and so you're the bad guy, right? You'll never understand what it's like to be me. In Under the Lights, what we say is, I believe that you want to be a good person. I believe that you mean well, and that awful, horrible thing that you just said to me comes from a place of simply not having enough information. What I say as an advocate a lot is that stigma is a very simple beast, and that's why it's exciting, is that it can be solved because it's simply a lack of information, and so we go to our lizard brain and we respond with fear. And so Under the Lights offers empathy to the able-bodied. It says, you're not the bad guy just because you have privileges that I don't. You just need to have the information, and you just need to listen, and you're already equipped with that. Let's talk.
And something that we're actively trying to do is also to extend that conversation behind the scenes as well. So we are actively going to be making an accommodating set both to accommodate Miles' disability, but also to hopefully have other cast and crew that have disabilities so that it's a slightly extended production schedule that can help accommodate that.
I want to add 2 dreams I have for this film. One, in the prom sequences, there will be people who were denied access to prom in real life. They will have that experience. Here's the other one. As I mentioned in the video, as directors with disabilities, we hide that on purpose because we want to be hired. My dream is that Under the Lights creates this blueprint that another filmmaker with a disability can look and say, look, it was done. How did they do it? Because now I know that I can direct too, and furthermore, other sets can say, oh, okay, well, they accommodated a director with a disability. We can too, because a lot of the time it's simply that someone just didn't ask me what I needed. And what I needed was a slightly different call time. Imagine that. It's going to create a track record and proof that it can be done.
Thank you guys so much. Great film.
Thank you.
Guys. Under the Lights. All right. So, those are our 5 films. This Greenlight Committee is going to greenlight a film. They're going to give someone that we just saw $1 million to get their film made. And these are all very personal stories, as you guys have seen and heard. Things that our Greenlight Committee is going to be thinking about. Can this film that we just saw, one of the pitches, can it be made for $1 million? Is the time now to see this film? Could it be shown in a year at Tribeca Film Festival? Is it largely unseen? Have we, I was here with you guys in a lot of these things we have not seen, so that's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough one. But there is a fan favorite, and everyone watching this, we, like I said, need your help to award a fan favorite. So you guys can go to Twitter at AT&T and vote for someone to get $50,000 if they do not win the $1 million. And the announcement of the winner is going to be at 1:30. So you guys have some time to talk it out and talk about your favorites, and we'll see you guys soon. Hello, everyone. What a beautiful morning. What a morning. Welcome back to AT&T Presents Untold Stories. I have all the feels for these young, beautiful, bright, creative filmmakers. And someone is about to make their dreams come true. I am going to welcome our Greenlight Committee. Come on out. Someone's greenlighting a film. Woo! Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome. Ooh. So, before we announce the winner, what we're all waiting for, it is my honor to welcome co-founder of Tribeca Festival, Robert De Niro, and CEO and co-founder, Jane Rosenthal. Guys. Yep, guys, come on this way.
Hi, everyone.
Yep.
Welcome to Untold Stories, presented by our longtime generous supporter, AT&T. AT&T came to us 5 years ago looking for an initiative that would build and diversify the filmmaking community. I did what I always do when presented with an opportunity and a challenge. I turned to Jane.
Thanks, Bob.
Artists need material to realize their ideas and express their creativity. Writers need a pen and a paper, or actually a computer. Painters need paint. Filmmakers need money. Right. So I brazenly suggested to AT&T that they annually fund a scripted feature film for a developing filmmaker, and then guarantee its distribution. I said $1 million ought to do it. That's not a lot when you consider the Marvel universe, but in ours, it gets a movie made, it gets a career started, expands our community, and advances feature film storytelling.
You see why we have Jane do it. AT&T agreed to it all and more. Through their generosity, the Untold Stories program has given us 4 extraordinary films. Last year's winner, Land of Gold, directed by Nardeep Kurmi, is premiering Thursday.
Get your tickets, please. We've got to support our filmmakers. Through today, AT&T has given us $5 million to award winners, another $320,000 to finalists to continue their development. You can applaud that, please. To announce the winner, juror and AT&T's Chief Marketing and Growth Officer, Keelan Smith-Kenny, with members of the jury.
Well, thank you, Jane, and thank you, Robert. First of all, a huge, tremendous, heartfelt thank you to the Greenlight Committee, who crushed it, if I do say so myself today. And of course, special congratulations, recognition, and thanks to all of the filmmakers who presented us with their untold stories today. AT&T believes that representation matters, and today's event is just one of the ways we are going to put that into action. The mission of this program is to provide talented and unique voices the opportunity to pursue their dreams. When we take stories from untold to told, we inspire a chain reaction of greater possibility. As you know, the winner today will be awarded $1 million to produce a feature-length film to premiere at next year's 2023 Tribeca Festival. And because we were inspired by all of the stories we heard today, AT&T is also going to award all 4 finalists $10,000 to continue the pursuit of their film. And now, I'd like to read the statement we wrote during our deliberations. All of these untold stories shine a light on worlds we rarely have access to. Yet they speak to all of us precisely because of their specificity. It was an incredibly difficult decision, and we believe deeply that all of these films deserve to be told and will be told. But we can only choose one. After reading your scripts, reviewing the supplemental materials, and watching today's pitches, we have chosen a recipient. This film explores the lengths we go to find community and acceptance. The Greenlight Committee was blown away by the clarity of directorial vision, how intimately the story is told, the power of your team, and honestly, we just feel like you're ready to call action. So, on behalf of AT&T, the Tribeca Festival, and the entire Greenlight Committee, the 2022 recipient of AT&T's Untold Story Award is Smoking Tiger! By So-Young Shelley-O.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for choosing us to be this amazing part of Untold Story. It is a story that we have carried with us for a really long time, and I think we're ready to tell this. And thank you so much for the Greenlight committee, and then thank you so much for Tribeca. Both of you are really cool.
Yeah, I'll let Shetty. I mean, thank you so much. We've been working on this story endlessly for so long, and we really weren't expecting to win, so I changed out of my shoes to slippers, and this just means the world to me. And this is a story for my family, for people who felt like an outsider, and so this award is everything. I never thought I would have a chance to make my dream movie, and this is our chance, and I'm so excited to start on this journey. Thank you.
Well, guys, y'all got me. Y'all got me. I'm over here like, hold on, wait a second. This amazing program by AT&T, it is wonderful, as you guys can see. And I mean, we all hope to see all these films made one day. And you guys are all winners in my eyes because I really connected with each and every one of you. So thank you for being here, and congratulations. And goodbye. Thank you.